And I got you, each and every one of you that Hi everybody, take again. Hi everybody, and thanks for joining me back here on the channel. And I'm excited to say that the community is growing, and I got each and every one of you to thank for that. Thanks for joining me, and thanks for keeping the community alive and well. And today, we're going to be discussing another exciting upgrade on the MS3. If you've been following along, you know I run an MS3 here in Hubert? That's not Hubert. That's Hubert. This is Simon. But I run an MS3 due by DIY auto-tune computer in Simon, and throughout the last winter I did an upgrade from the MS2 to an MS3. And if you've been following along, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, an MS2 and MS3 is a do-it-yourself computer, and I got my stuff from DIY Auto-Tune. You can either buy it pre-assembled, or you can assemble it yourself and do your upgrades along the way. I've been building this system for over 10 years now. What we're going to be added on today is this proton-neutron flux capacitor. Well, that's not what it is. It's actually a flux fuel sensor. Get a good look at it here. It's made by Continental, and it's found on the majority of all your GM vehicles. And I did snag this one off of a Equinox. I actually grabbed two from my local pick and pull. You can purchase these things brand new, whether it's Amazon, eBay, I like eBay, or probably your local parts vendor has them too. I'll get another look here. I don't know which look is better, but I believe this top number is the part number, and the bottom is probably the batch that it was made in. But I got them down to the local pick and pull, and I got two of them for under 20 bucks. So that's about 10 bucks a piece, where I think they were $40 or $50 on eBay. Now, the MS2 is capable of running flex fuel. The MS3 is just easier. I think I've never attempted to run it in the MS2 because I was kind of scared, and I think I'd have to set up my own separate or second fuel table and spark table, which means I'd have to basically make sure that the gas tank in Simon was pretty much empty before I added the E85, and then I would have to make sure I only had the E85 in there and go through and set up the fuel table and tune a fuel table for it. But the nice thing with the sensor is it actually reads the amount of ethanol that's in your fuel. I could be running gas tank full of premium, or let's say I could be running like a half a tank of premium, go and fill up with E85, and the difference isn't going to be 85% ethanol. The sensor is going to read what the ethanol level is. Say it's probably going to be roughly 35 or 40%. But that's going to be the nice upgrade. Now I run A&N fittings and hose for the fuel system on Simon here. It runs basically from the tank back to the engine, back up to the tank. In my understanding, the majority of the people are putting these in their return lines, basically because there's less pressure there. I was actually, when I was thinking about this, figured it would before the engine, but apparently the system's flowing fast enough that the sensor can calibrate. Now with the sensor being able to read the ethanol content, is going to basically run off the same fuel table as the premium, and it's just going to adjust for the difference in the ethanol. Not only will it do the fuel table, it will also do the ignition table depending on where you set it at. There are in Tuner Studio, there is a area in there for the flex fuel, and actually with the MS3, with the expansion board, it has its own input for the flex fuel sending unit sensor. That is a sensor, flex fuel sensor. That'll be nice. I think it's 3 wires. It's a input wire, a 12-volt wire, and a sensor ground wire. So 3 wires. Shouldn't get those mixed up. It shouldn't be too hard to load. It shouldn't be too hard to wire. And then with sitting here looking at this, since I run the A&N lines, there's no screw-in A&N lines here. That's where Russells or Earls or even or the Aeroquip, they actually have these nice fittings. They're just the push lock fittings. So you'll push those on there, then you can screw your A&N lines on. It's actually lucky enough, and my local parts vendor had these right on the shelf. I thought I was going to have to order them. I did pay a little bit more, but I don't mind paying a little bit more here for the local guys versus purchasing them on eBay. For one, I don't think the eBay one was a Russell's or an Earl's. And I learned a little thing too. I believe these Russells, I don't run a whole lot of the Russells. My vendor usually has Earl's or the Aeroquipped. Yeah, I think it's Aeroquipped. He usually has Earl's or Aeroquipped. So I was kind of surprised to see the Russells. But he's telling me Russell's is Edelbrock. Edelbrock makes the Russells. Earl's, I believe he said, is made by Holley, and then Aeroquipped is their own brand, Aeroquipped. Basically, we'll just put a little bit of oil in here and snap these on, and then screw on the fittings. But the first thing we got to do before we get going any further is Jack Hubert. I want to keep calling Simon Hubert. Hubert's over there. We'll be getting back to Hubert here probably in a month or so. But yeah, gotta jack up Simon here and get up underneath the car and figure out where I'm gonna mount that bracket. I already got an idea, but we gotta go look underneath and see if it's gonna fit. So yeah, let's get to jacking. Before I was just another guy, look at me now, I'm way up high. Might look like I have it just for show, cause it'll dust up any dirt road. I jacked it up, put on lifted off-road tires with B-locks on it. It's got a little attitude, ain't it grand? It does the mud as well as the sand. It defines me who I am. It's more than practical, it's a statement. If you ever think I'll send it, good luck. American made, and it's my truck. As so as my tools can haul a load, but it drinks up gas, and now I'm broke. Well, I jacked it up, put on a lift kit, off-road tires with B-locks on it. It's got a little attitude, ain't it? Hey, there you guys are. As well as the same. I think I kind of decide I'm going to tap into my line right here. It comes along the side of the car and up over the torsion housing here. And I don't know if it's probably not the proper way to do it, but I've been running it like that for years. But the only thing you got to do is be careful when you throw a jack under here. I always use this as a jacking point, that you don't squish these lines. But yeah, and I normally cut them off with one of these. When I tap into these, or when I cut these A&N lines, you know, I'll wrap some tape around these and then just zap them off with the cutoff wheel. You just got to make sure you clean everything really, really good. But we're dealing with fuel. This makes lots of sparks. Fuel and sparks, they don't mix unless you want a big boom and flame. But yeah, so I got the fire extinguishers, or fire extinguisher, and the garden hose ready. But I'm going to use this to cut in. It's a cable, I believe it's called a cable cutter. It's got the nice, you can see on there, let's see if I can show it to you guys, curved jaws in there, basically, and the big long handles. So I watch my supplier cut hose with one of these things all the time. Picked that up at Harbor Freight. It's under 30 bucks. Can't complain. You know, Harbor Freight's my favorite store. I'm told that fuel sensor likes to be set kind of at the lowest point of your fuel system. That way you don't get any air pockets. But this hose basically is run uphill, and then probably my lowest point is actually at the gas tank up front. So I'm hoping this is going to be a happy medium. And being this at the lowest point, I'm hoping that I got the car jacked up enough that I don't drain the whole gas tank. I'm going to put a bucket down here, and I'm going to do a little more measuring and make sure that actually right now that the gas tank is the lowest point, and that's higher, and that this is actually higher than the gas tank. So when I do cut into it, I don't drain the gas tank, because you know that ain't going to be a good thing. Have all that gas out of here. I should probably check the gas. I think I got a quarter tank of gas. Probably stick that sensor here. I put a 90. I think I got a straight and then a 90. Probably up. I think that'll get me about a straight and a 90. hoping that'll work. But then I'll probably just zip tie, you know, us backyard mechanics love our zip ties. But I'll probably zip tie it to this torsion housing at first, and then maybe try to figure out how to make a bracket, maybe off the pan here or something in the future if I continue running this. But until then, let's get the cutting. The beauty of Tuner Studio is I can turn my fuel pump on here in the output test mode. It's the output test mode 1/0. Show you guys what's going on here. I just took the fuel line off one of the rails here, and fuel line runs from here over to here, and I just got it going in here. Yeah, I had too much gas in the tank. I didn't want to risk. I was kind of took a measurement, just visually took a measurement where the bottom of the tank was and where I was going to cut in. Still kind of at the lowest point, and I would have dumped I think I had probably 2, maybe 3 gallons of fuel in there. We'll find out when that thing's done running. Oh, guys, good thing I decided to drain that gasoline out of the tank, because I filled the 6-gallon container up, no problem. And the necessity of being able to turn that fuel pump on was really handy. I probably should explain that. The way this MS3 and the MS2 is set up, when you key on the ignition, the fuel pump comes up and primes and then shuts off while you're cranking the engine. And then as soon as the engine fires up, it starts pumping again. So it's kind of hard to sit there and go keek, 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 keek to try to drain a gas tank. So being able to go and get in there and turn it on and test it, make sure it works, is really handy. Hey, I'm back. And I'm stabbing myself in the head with an A&N fitting. Got this all cut. Like I said, it's a good thing I drained that gas tank, and barely got, well, it's even dry. Hardly anything came out of this end, so I guess that's a good thing. Using these massive cutters worked wonders. Cut in seconds. Actually, it's kind of hard to get underneath here and operate them because they're so long, but yet it still cut real easily. And now the fun part is trying to get the fittings on this thing, because they're a pain in the ass to do it when you're up on the workbench, let alone down underneath here. Hey, I'm back. Probably don't need these anymore. I'm done cutting hoses. You can see I've got my Flux fuel sensor mounted. All I gotta do is wire it in now, and what I'm doing is circulating the pump. That's what that humming noise is. And just making sure I got no leaks, and so far so good. Next is to get the wiring done and check out and see how it works in Tuner Studio. So stay tuned and hold on, and I'll try to get to that next. But I should probably shut this pump off before I wear my battery down. Well, yeah, we're back on the top side of the car, not underneath it anymore. I'm trying to finish up some of the wiring so we can actually see if these sensors work. And actually, I bought 2 sensors. I still got one in my hand here, but yeah, you guys seen that I had the other one installed. And actually, that location works really well. Like I said, we do need to make a bracket for it. But yeah, you know, backyard mechanic's favorite tool is a zip tie. It's zip tied up on the torsion housing, and I've got the one fuel line that kind of comes up, or actually goes down, goes down over the torsion bar, and the other one goes up and over it. So if it does come loose, that one fuel line will hold it up. Now, I was going through the, you guys see that? I was going through the manual online for the wiring on this thing here, and I don't think that wiring's right. Because if you read on there, get some articles on the manual here, this is definitely an older sensor, but it says that for GM, it's the white wire is the ground, as the 12-volt wire for GM and Ford is the pink, and the output sensor for GM is purple. Well, there's not even a purple wire on here. I guess, you know, this one is pink. But I did notice, you know, like I said, this is a Continental. I pulled this off of a Equinox, can't remember what year, but you know, if you look for the yellow gas cap, there should be a flex fuel sensor underneath there. It was actually underneath the driver's, actually between the driver and passenger door. All I needed to remove it was this lovely tool, and definitely some safety glasses, because in a salvage yard, the cars are drained of gas to a certain point. Ask me how I know. Well, no, don't. But yeah, pretty much the hoses that clip on here were rubber, and a snip, and of course some gas came out and splashed me in the, not quite in the face, but on the shirt, so I went home smelling like gas. And then they're actually held on with these little connectors here. I don't know if you guys see those, just little plastic connectors, and pretty much just ripped it right off. Oh yeah, of course, don't forget to cut the wire harness with the pigtail pig. That's going to be needed. But we'll go back to the smarticles here, and I was noticing on here, right on here, it says out, ground, and it looks like a VOO. But I actually did a little Google search, and it is output to your ECU for Flex. Ground, they do recommend an ECU ground, not a chassis ground, and volts, which is a 12 volt. And it doesn't really say if it's going to be switch 12 volt or 12 volt to it all the time, but I will probably run it to a switch so it's not powered all the time. So enough chatting, let's get back to wiring. Alright guys, the sensor is all wired. And I'm going to show you kind of how I understand this a little bit. It's kind of neat with, you know, this technology. Kind of, you know, for an older guy like me, kind of blows my mind. But there are plenty of other videos out there on this, and probably better stated and instructed than what I'm going to show you. And I'll try to remember to link this one gentleman's YouTube channel down below. He actually goes over this in about 3 different videos, and it helped me out a lot. So, you know, I got to pass on the information. But we'll flip back over here. This is the sensor input, and pretty much it was set for default. You have to enable it, of course, and then I am using the flex fuel input in the MX3, and then temperature input. I don't know why there's a temperature input for flex fuel, but that was kind of defaulted on there. Now let's click on it and see if there's any other information on there. Sensor 1, sensor 2, sensor 3, and don't really know. Actually, the video I was watching, this has all been updated since he made his videos. But most generally, the information in here for spark and fuel was pretty much defaulted, except for the baseline ethanol. And I'm going to show you how you can kind of get your baseline ethanol and actually test and make sure the sensor is working, which I have kind of already gone through this once just so I can understand it. I had a spare gauge over here, so I actually put the ethanol correction in there, and right now it's saying that we're at 100%, meaning basically there's zero ethanol. Well, not zero, there is ethanol in the system, but we're telling the computer that this is where we want to run our base fuel table, since I've already kind of set the fuel table up with the ethanol in it. You don't want to go and set this, you know, saying 100% zero, and then have it correct for 10% ethanol, because majority of our fuels have some ethanol in it, whether it's 8 to 10%. So we're going to enable the fuel pump again, just get things flowing. I'm surprised this didn't change at all. If we right click on here and go down to sensor inputs 2, we can find the ethanol percentage. So we'll change the gauge to ethanol percentage, and here it's saying that I have 6.6% ethanol in the gas that I have in there, and I don't know if ethanol evaporates at all. This gas is actually isn't really all that old, but I probably have some race fuel mixed in there too, so that would actually be why it's a little bit less than 10%. What I have to do is I should go fill up with some more fuel and see if that changes. And then we go in here and you know, we should change it. The gentleman I was explaining before says if you're within a percent or so, it's not going to be that big of a deal. And I set it for 8 because that's basically a good midpoint until we start running some others. So we'll go up here to calculations. We'll go down to EAFI calculations. And earlier this said actually 99, but it's about at 100. So it's kind of happy where it's at. Now when you start putting more ethanol in there, it'll go up. So 10%, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, all the way around. And I think the way this reads here with the multiplier, that 163 is actually like 100% ethanol. And the ethanol mix here, this means 0, and this would be 100% ethanol. which I'll be playing with E85. Let's shut some things off so I don't continue to burn my battery up. So yeah, that's basically it. Pretty easy, straightforward install, and it took me 3 days, but that's because I'm filming and I'm lazy. I had some other stuff going on, but so I work on it a little bit after work and then do other things. So now we're gonna have to test drive it, take it up, and maybe maybe we'll add a little E85 to it, to the system, and see how much or see actually how the car likes it and how well the multiplier works on the Tuner Studio. I'm not going to run a full 100% E85 yet. I'm going to start little steps and work my way up because I'm not really quite sure on how well the fuel pump's going to like it. The fuel pump is pretty old. It may not be able to keep up with the pressure. The other thing I'm not really 100% sure on yet are the injectors I have in here. Maybe on the small side when it comes to running ethanol, or higher contents of ethanol. But yeah, we'll just have to play with it and see if the car likes it, and see if the fuel pump likes it. I always recommended to probably upgrade the fuel pump to something that's more ethanol friendly. But wow, one more thing checked off the upgrade list. The whole reason I upgraded to the MS3. So keep cruising, keep shifting those gears, and always enjoy the ride.
Before I was just another guy